This is Dave from Save South Africa. Today I'm speaking with
Dave Thabang Lebusa Mamaregane from University of South Africa.
So he is a student leader who was involved in, that is correct, eh?
FISMAS4.
Yeah, and he's going to chat a bit to us today about, for him, what he wants to hear in the State of the Nation address, and in general, what the State of the Nation is. So without further ado, do you have anything you want to start with?
Yeah, I would say so many things that are happening, especially things concerning students currently in our country. What I would say is that, in fact, it's very perturbing for, especially on the landscape of student leaders, through the arrest of whatever that is happening currently. Most students are very cannot go forward, and especially on the mandate of their constitutional right, which is education. Now, what is happening is that most of them, they are very scared in taking matters forward, especially of being victimized.
So would that be a bit like the UCT 8 or what happened to Shira Kala, or I don't know what the story is currently with Nsebo Lamini?
Yeah, especially what happened to Bonginkosi Kanyile from KZN. He's still arrested as we speak. He's still incarcerated.
Yeah.
And what is happening is that same thing what happened to Lamini. So what we're saying is that it really disturbed so many student leaders. That's why you see most of them now are not doing anything. They are relaxed. Whatever that they have to do now, when they think of being arrested, it's something else for them. So it's a situation where most of them, they're pulling out because really activism is not into everyone else.
And I suppose it's also like, while in some areas in the media there's ideas that these are wealthy students, the reality is a lot of these leaders aren't. And they don't have resources to fight back when the police go and arrest them. They don't have a lawyer that's going to come and help.
I believe that you cannot normally push a revolution with empty pockets, especially it needs a lot of relative sacrifice.
No, fair enough. So going forward, you said that you want that to be brought up in the State of the Nation, right?
Pardon?
You said you want kind of student issues to be very present in the State of the Nation.
Of course.
How would that come across? What sort of things?
I believe that if a student can go back in the drawing boards, and like today there's a meeting in Pretoria, if they could sit down and deliberate much on the issues and have some few leaders, unlike what was happening last year, where everyone had to be Justin Bieber of FISMAS4, which we really didn't want that. We believe that if we can have 3-4 leaders who could give us instruction, I think that's going to work better.
So that sounds like stuff that essentially the movement needs to get resolved. How do you see that happening in the near future? Like, what does the movement need to do to get their leaders, to get people that represent them well?
I believe that I believe that whatever that happened last year with FISMAS4, it was not enough. The one of 2015, that was the most prominent FISMAS4 that our comrades sold the campaign.
Yes.
Now, what happened is that from now going forward, what needs to be done is that we need to look deeper into us having a legal representative, so that when we got arrested, we'll be represented in court. Because we're not scared of going forward, but we're scared of being incarcerated for 20 years or 15 years or 5 years, the minimum sentence, which at the end of the day, that is going to delay our life and our future.
And I imagine there's responsibilities you have. So if you get put in jail for that period of time now, let's say your family need to financially support stuff like that.
Of course. So I believe that if you can go back and re-engineer the campaign again, and go back to and look at issues that are affecting us, because what is happening is that when you look at on how we deal with the issues, especially on attacking these issues, because we are tired of defending ourselves with our government. Now, when you try to attack the issues, especially when you go straight to the Department of Higher Education, we always find doors closed, and we end up pushing to an extent where violence takes place, which is exactly what we're lambasting for. But we're saying that if needs be, there will be a situation where violence will manifest, which is exactly what we're not looking for as FISMAS4 leaders.
So it's almost like you guys you don't want violence, but the point is you need to have this change. This change has to happen. So if your peaceful protests are ignored, you have no choice but to resort to violence sort of stuff, which no one wants.
Of course, if you look at things, the 2015 FIS must fall and the 2016 FIS must fall. 2016 FIS must fall was very peaceful. Very peaceful. But if you can look at things, it comes to an extent where police are harassing students and we end up revolting against them. And this is a situation where we're saying the very same police officers who are underpaid as we speak, they're the very same people who need the very same to go to school for free. Because if you can check, most of them, they only have matric.
I can really appreciate that as well, sort of that sympathy that, the police officers are not this kind of symbol of horror and terribleness. It's sort of like they're just paid employees of the state, which are being forced to, fight you guys and getting put in a very conflicting position with you guys, which is not ideal, obviously.
Of course, what I can say is that most police officers find themselves in a very compromised situation because they are law enforcers. And if you can look at things, even if you find themselves in a situation where my father is a police officer and I'm a student and I'm fighting against the very same government that is dealing with us currently, there's nothing that he can do. If they say shoot and you find that his child is there, he's just going to shoot. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, whatever that he's doing, he's going to have to deal with it at all.
Which, it's... I can't even imagine how difficult that must be at home in that sort of situation. So let's say now on the 8th we're doing our State of the Nation, but then on the 9th the president's doing his. What are some words you want him to say? Do you want him to say things like, we will create... So you were saying stuff about that when you go to the Department of Education, the doors need to be open for you. So what does that look like in reality? Like, is that an invitation to a table to have regular discussions? You were talking before about presentations and stuff like that.
I believe, going a little bit slightly on whatever that you just said now, is that we believe that if all companies of this country will put a scheme, will come up with a scheme where there's no longer bursaries on the side where they only give one student 150,000 or 100,000 or 70,000 for only one student. They should put that money and be able to fund all students who have been accepted in the university, who got admitted in the university. I think that will work better to us and work together with NSFAS.
Okay, so sort of what you want to hear out the State of the Nation is sort of a move from private enterprise to sort of say, we will now reduce costs in other areas like advertising, etc., and instead we're going to put more money into funding students, and we're going to do this through the NSFAS fund.
Of course.
Okay.
I believe that again, if it's a situation, in fact, I think government is not really willing to deal with these issues because they know very well that, especially Blade Nzimande, he's from a communist party, by the way.
Yes.
We expect a lot from him, but because he also finds himself in a compromised situation where he had to work with there's ones of yellow T-shirt, it becomes very disturbing to us.
Not a fan, I'm gathering.
It becomes very disturbing to us because he calls himself a communist, which we believe that from a communist perspective, he was supposed to be the one being in the forefront of FIS must fall.
Yes.
But in fact, he's doing the opposite.
So it's almost like the people that are supposed to represent you, the feeling you have at the moment is that they're not representing you. That, this is a guy, the leader of the Communist Party, he's supposed to be there saying to students, yes, you're right, you should have a free education, that's what we want. But at the end of the day, it's like you're arguing with him over what you need when he should be the guy arguing with the president about what you need.
Of course, I believe that Comrade Blade Nzimande is really sold out the revolution. Mm-hmm. And I believe that he's not even interested with anything that has to do with students. And in fact, especially from his response last year on the issues of FIS must fall, it really shows no interest, a lack of political will on helping the students who are from poor backgrounds like ourselves.
Okay, so when you say he sold out the movement, what in particular, what sort of things show that he is sold out? What sort of things does he do that make you go, look, you're not doing what you're supposed to do? That what you were saying.
I believe that Comrade Blade Nzimande is protecting the white monopoly capital.
Okay.
So from his response, especially based on FIS must fall, when he say, it's not feasible, it's not this, But when you look at it, what is it that he has done to the students of this country? Because NSFAS on its own is not enough. When you look at other institutions like UNISA, it's quite disturbing. When you look in a situation where students go back home, and University of Johannesburg, where a student go back home, they cannot receive NSFAS. I'm talking about a student who got 36 APS because student could not receive bursary, student could not receive NSFAS.
Something I've heard of as well is that if you have NSFAS funding and you get an 80% bursary, which is, excellent, you can't get NSFAS for the last 20%. Is that right?
But what happened? I'm talking about something that happened some couple of weeks ago, where a student who got 36 APS could not get a space in the University of Johannesburg, and we tried to speak to them, even the dean of students, and we tried to call left, right, and center, even in the Department of Education, but nothing happened.
So do you want to explain for our viewers what 36 APS is, what that means? So why does 36 APS mean he should have got a place, for example?
Pardon?
So you want to explain to our viewers what 36 APS means, in the sense of so we're saying this guy with 36 APS, clearly he should have been in university. Why? What does that 36 APS mean?
The APS score is that it's a requirement. By the way, I can't say it's a requirement. The student has to study it for NLB.
Yeah.
The LLB is 29. They say they need 29 APS at the University of Johannesburg, and the student has 36, which is M score.
So he's well above it.
Yes, it's well above it, and it was a situation where they started saying there's no space, and the student managed to apply early as possible. Today, the student is at home, cannot do anything, but then the student has an APS of 36.
Which is excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's not just like an average APS.
They deprive that student with an opportunity to study, and the worst part, and that's why in most cases, I think they're reducing the value of education at some point. That's my view, because now a student who has a 36 APS, a student who is level 7, level 6, the minimum it's level 4. How come the student stays at home?
It's kind of like
it's
a wasted opportunity.
It's a wasted opportunity. Now the student has to be at home.
Yeah.
If it's a woman, it becomes a problem. We are not going to shy away from the fact that most women, especially from our background, black people, when they're going to be at home for a long period, they end up engaging into, when someone is poor, they end up engaging into so many things that they end up tarnishing their repute or disturbing their future. Possibility of pregnancy is very, it's
just by the nature of the relationship, guys don't have to worry about getting pregnant. It's not a danger. And I suppose when a woman does, it puts them at risk in terms of being able to, study later, because now how are you going to get it, you go to an employer and they're like, oh, but you have to look after your child. Well, I don't know. Is that what you're referring to? That sort of thing.
I believe you see, when you look at I still value the education of Mzansi, but what I'm saying is that I think ANC is not doing good. There's NSFAS. Our brothers and sisters, some of them are working at departments now. They're very proud that they did not pay back NSFAS. And what is happening is that the government is not doing enough to trace those people who have used NSFAS, who are the beneficiary of that scheme. Now they're not paying back the NSFAS. Now the next generation is suffering. Now what the government was supposed to be doing, of the ANC, is that they were supposed to be able to trace, because they've commodified education already. Unless otherwise, if we speak about the situation where we're saying no to commodifying of education. So now there's a situation where we're saying that we need a situation where, for the next generation to survive, or the NSFAS to survive, to succeed the next generation, is to make sure that they trace everyone who's used NSFAS, especially who's working at this point in time.
Yes. And basically, so essentially that we can afford to kind of give everyone an education, especially our generation, right?
Of course.
I also want to step back for a second. You were talking before about Bladen's Monday being compromised, and in particular you said, he's compromised to white minority capital. Now, depending on who's in the audience, I think different people have different things that come to mind. I think some people might say, oh, white minority capital, and they look at me, white person, but obviously it's more nuanced than that. And I suspect it probably links a lot to what the rest of South Africa often refers to as corruption. Do you want to explain that a bit?
What? Pardon?
So what is white minority capital? So in relation to, you said Blade has sold out to white minority capital. What is the white minority capital in that description?
What I can say, white monopoly capital is a situation where white people are protecting their wealth at the expense of black masses.
Okay. So and that would mean essentially that in a South African context, Blade is helping to protect the existing wealthy people, which for the most part in South Africa, or a very significant part, is white people, instead of allowing the entire population of South Africans to prosper.
Of course.
Yeah. So I suppose if we were to break this down now, all these things we've talked about, so the big things for you are kind of like that you need addressed are that we actually have government institutions which address those issues, that challenge white monopoly capital. We need them to pursue NSFAS resources so that we can fund students. We need private industry to reprioritize what they're doing with their money and instead give more to students. Have I sort of summed up the things that were most important to you, or do you think there was something I missed there? Maybe viewers will know.
I think what is important is to really prioritize. You see, if South Africa can, all companies can prioritize education.
Yes.
By the way, on my own personal view is that most if you find a situation where in the country we're all educated.
Yes.
By the way, we become the threat of the government. Because because now the government, especially in South Africa, with this colonized education system, it takes us to go straight to work in the public sectors and just be there beyond the computer and do nothing. We're not in a situation where we can be able to do things for ourselves. We're not being taught such things, and even
so we're almost vulnerable to the government. We're at their behest.
Yes, we become the burden of the state. All students, everyone who's a graduate now, they are all waiting for government to give them a job. Majority of them, they cannot do anything for themselves besides them getting enough money from the government, doing whatsoever, but they cannot do anything. Even if you can check now with possibly 80% or 90% of the graduates of South Africa, they cannot even come up with anything.
When you say they can't come up with anything, do you mean they can't find a job, or they're not good at what they're supposed to be doing, or
they're not innovative?
They're not innovative. Okay, so they're actually just. It's almost like so what you're saying is we're training all these professionals, but at the end of the day, they're really not up to scratch.
I would say they're not different from people who are just picking up boxes in the industries. They're putting them in the truck because what they're doing is that they're doing business management in school. They're doing risk management. They're doing LLB. They're doing whatsoever. But what is happening? All of them, they go straight, become prosecutors, straight just to become admins and all that. None of them will become with anything that will help the country or become employers.
I see what you're saying. So it's almost like you're talking a bit about economic growth. So we need professionals in South Africa that are actually changing the economy, that are making money so that we don't have, 25%, I think is the official unemployment. I'd have to double check, don't quote me on that. But it's unreasonably high, let alone the fact that we have most of the country underemployed, where they, in theory, have a full-time job, but then they have to, they live without running water and without electricity and those sorts of things. Is that sort of the area?
Yeah. If you can look at things now, that South Africa, it's in fact it's shocking, especially in the political landscape that we are in now.
Yeah.
Now it's a situation where we're not sure of tomorrow, what will happen. We're not sure of what will happen after 2019.
Yeah.
It's a situation where we're saying that all South Africans, never mind the difference of political parties, they need to come sit down and look at the future of this country. Because I believe that this country, where it's coming from, it's far. The only thing that they need to do is to make sure that the selfishness within the infights within the current leadership of this country,
yes,
especially ANC, they need to sit down and look at the future, at the brighter future of this country, and move forward. The only thing that they need to do is to make sure that they fight these bogus criminals within their movements.
So I think that's quite a positive note, actually, on some level. It's sort of like that we need to sort of, on some level, come together and push away these negative impacts that are not productive, whether that be within the ANC or just as a people as a whole.
Yes, and I believe that through the economic freedom fighters, the way the way they are pushing now, pushing the old political parties, including the DA, it works very well for the poor masses of this country, because Julius Salomalema is really speaking our language as we speak.
Okay.
Because from where we're coming from, it's just a horror. Looking at things, especially where we're coming from. I'm not talking about here at Melrose Arc where people are getting everything on a silver plate. I'm talking about a situation there at Bushbuck Ridge, Limpopo.
Or even Alex.
Even Alex. Yeah, but I can speak very well about Limpopo because that's where we're coming from. So if we look at Limpopo, it's really disturbing. There's no water there. You have to do borehole for yourself.
You know, and how can people be expected then to grow the economy when they're having to do that? Let alone anything else.
Even in Pretoria.
Yeah.
There's places where the people are staying in an informal settlement where there's no water as we speak. So it's really disturbing.
So I think, look, we are running out of time. But I think to kind of round it out, it sounds like you do have, there's a lot of things that we're really concerned about. The state of the nation at the moment, it sounds like you don't feel as great. And understandably, there's a lot of evidence to show that. Though I also hear a bit of hope in you. You're like, you can see a future. You can see what we can do. You can see that what you feel that the EFF, what they're doing is making a difference. They are pushing and it will make a difference. So am I kind of hearing you right on that?
Yes. I believe that everything will come all right in this country as long as we can get away with the ANC only for 5 years.
Oh, really?
Get away with the ANC for 5 years.
They come back, sort of thing.
And if they come back, they will come back as an opposition. They must go back to the drawing board of revolution.
So it sounds like you're a real Democrat. You believe in that democracy will essentially be solving our problems.
Of course, I believe in democracy.
I think, to end off on that note then, I think also what I really like about that is it's almost like a suggestion that we'll really change the country if people get involved. If we stand up, if we talk about these sort of issues and make a difference. Okay?
And again, political consciousness, it's important, especially to our poor masses in this country.
Yes.
Because if you can look at things, especially even if you can check off how they took our land. I mean, they just give you a cup of coffee and they take your cows and they take everything from you. And I mean, what does it say in your mind when someone just give you a small phone of Apple and take the whole house? I mean, it's very perturbing. It shows lack of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying that even now in this generational epoch, now what they need to do is to advance consciousness, not only in university institutions, but also back there at KZN, back there at Mpumalanga. You see, to make sure that those people, even those who are not working, those who are at home, political consciousness must prevail.
Okay, I think that's a great place for us to end it. The political consciousness must prevail. We must kind of advance ourselves in that sense.
Yeah, because we hear so many times where our sisters and brothers, you say, no, I don't like politics. Politics will do you, whether you do them or not.
Yeah.
I submit.
Cool. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. So please do subscribe, like, share, all the wonderful things. A reminder, our Real State of the Nation address is taking place on Wednesday, the 8th of February. I hope you guys tune in. We should have a whole bunch of awesome videos to show you before then and lots of social media. So see you guys next time. Cheers.